The offseason in the National Football League, it carries this incredibly deceptive quiet, right? We all see the glitz and the glamour of the draft in late April. We see the primetime lights, the massive multi-million-dollar contracts splashed all over social media, with players smiling right next to their general managers. It looks like a dream. But when those cameras finally turn off and the massive steel doors of those training facilities lock, well, there is a hidden, much darker reality. We're talking about a shadow economy, one that operates deep inside those echoing weight rooms and out across the empty practice fields during these so-called quiet months. So this explainer is going to dive right into that brutal, unforgiving machine. It's a meticulously designed system, really, that dictates whose dreams are fiercely protected and whose are just instantly, coldly discarded. Because look, this isn't just another story about the game of football. This is a deep dive examination into the chilling economics of human assets. It's about exactly what happens when the human body, which, let's face it, is a highly tuned but very fragile instrument, when that body fails inside a corporate structure that is literally designed to keep moving forward without ever looking back in the rearview mirror. So settle in, because the reality we are about to unpack today reveals the calculated, completely unfeeling heart of the NFL offseason.
Everything changed in a matter of seconds. I just want you to let that sink in for a moment. Really imagine it. Imagine dedicating your entire absolute existence to one singular goal. You pushing your physical body way past every conceivable biological limit, day in and day out. You're sacrificing your youth, the cartilage in your knees and joints, your peace of mind, all of it, just for a razor-thin lottery ticket opportunity to make it big. And then, against all odds, you finally achieve the impossible. You actually sign your name on the dotted line. You are in the building, man. You are wearing the team colors. The dream is real. And then, a totally mundane step, just a simple squeak of a cleat against the practice turf. A sudden, violent disruption of kinetic energy. A pop, a snap that echoes across a suddenly dead, silent practice field. You can almost feel the immediate, chilling hush of teammates turning their heads to look. In the NFL, your entire livelihood, your future earning potential, your very identity as a professional athlete, it all balances entirely on the fragile integrity of ligaments and tendons. And when they snap, the dream doesn't just slowly fade away over time. No, it shatters, instantly, irrevocably. And the crazy part? The machine just keeps right on turning.
So to really understand this, I want you to consider two men sitting inside the exact same New York locker room. Two elite athletes existing in completely different stratospheres when it comes to job security. On one hand, you have Cam Scatterbo. He's a highly touted fourth-round draft pick. Now, look across that very same room at Thaddeus Dixon, an undrafted free agent. Two men wearing the exact identical shade of New York blue. They're walking the same polished hallways, they're sweating over the exact same steel in the weight room. To the naked eye, they are equals. But when catastrophe strikes, and let's be honest, when the body inevitably breaks under the immense crushing pressure of professional football, the franchise treats these two men as if they exist in completely separate universes. It's wild. One is a heavily protected corporate investment, right? He's a sunk cost that absolutely must be nurtured back to health. The other? Well, he is a disposable risk, just a temporary placeholder. To truly grasp the dark asymmetry of this business model, we really need to examine what happens when the absolute worst-case medical scenario hits both of these players.
All right, let's start with the protected asset. Cam Scatterbo didn't just casually make the active roster. The guy was rapidly becoming the thumping, physical engine of the Giants' entire backfield. Every single time he touched the ball, and he touched it 101 times to be exact, he was out there proving the front office right. He was grinding out 410 rushing yards. He found the end zone 7 times during his rookie campaign. That's 5 punishing runs right on the ground and 2 more through the air. He wasn't just participating out there, he led all Giants running backs, tying for 27th league-wide at his position. He even showed off some serious versatility, hauling in 24 catches for over 200 yards. The Giants scouting department must have been thrilled because they had found a gem, a violent downhill runner who was proving every single Sunday that spending a 4th-round draft capital on him was an absolute steal. He was producing, he was moving the chains, he was actively building a legacy. But then, in Week 8, under those incredibly hostile lights against the Philadelphia Eagles, all that unstoppable momentum violently came to a halt.
Now, the anatomy of Scatterbo's injury is honestly a masterclass in modern sports medicine. But much more importantly, it is a masterclass in franchise patience. We have to be clear here, this wasn't just some minor tweak or a low-grade ankle sprain. No way. It was a gruesome, stomach-churning, dislocated ankle right in the middle of that Week 8 divisional clash. The kind of catastrophic, visceral trauma that actually required him to be hospitalized overnight for immediate emergency surgery. But here's what you really need to notice. Notice the timeline. Notice the entire tone of his recovery process. Recently, at the team's annual town hall event at the Beacon Theater in Manhattan, Scatterbo actually stood up before the crowd.
He spoke openly about those grueling, quiet mornings with the training staff, and he admitted something fascinating. He said the hardest hurdle hasn't even been the physical pain. It's been psychological. It's that tiny bit of hesitation when making a lateral cut. It's learning to implicitly, totally trust that surgically repaired joint when a 250-pound linebacker is bearing down on him at full speed. So yeah, he is currently missing organized team activities. But guess what? The franchise is waiting. The general manager isn't panicking at all. His ultimate goal? To be fully ready for Week 1, when the Giants host the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. The team is, quite literally, holding the door wide open for their drafted star. He told the crowd, "Wait until you see me for 17 games." I mean, that statement is just pure defiance, isn't it? It is exactly the kind of grit and toughness that NFL coaches literally dream of. But fundamentally, when you really pull back the curtain, that is the luxury of job security talking. Scattistobo's status as a drafted player buys him the ultimate, absolutely most coveted currency in the National Football League. And you know what that is? Time. He has the runway to heal. He has afforded the grace to actually have setbacks in his rehab, to slowly and meticulously learn to trust his body again. Why? Because the Giants need him to succeed. Because they spend a highly valuable fourth-round draft pick on him, the front office is financially, structurally, and honestly, egotistically motivated to see this comeback happen. If he fails, it's a huge, glaring mark against the general manager's drafting record. So, he gets to look forward. He gets to stand on a stage in Manhattan and make bold, exciting promises to the fan base about the future. Now, I want you to contrast that luxury with the brutal, unforgiving reality of Thaddeus Dixon. Dixon absolutely did not have the shield of draft capital protecting his locker. His path to the NFL was a relentless, agonizing grind from day one. He transferred all the way from Washington to North Carolina for the 2025 season, specifically chasing the opportunity to just prove his worth on a big stage. And get this, he actively chose to play under one of the most famously demanding, perfectionist head coaches in football history, Bill Belichick. Look, surviving a Belichick program is a massive badge of honor. It essentially proves a player's mental and physical endurance is off the charts. And Dixon flashed immense potential while he was there. In just 7 games, he posted 19 tackles and 6 pass breakups. He had the film. He had the undeniable raw talent, but the NFL is a league utterly terrified of damaged goods. A previous nagging hamstring injury attached a giant red flag to his medical profile. And in a league that is completely obsessed with the explosive first-step quickness required to play cornerback, a hamstring issue is a massive, massive deterrent. Because of that one issue, his draft stock plummeted to 0. So Dixon went completely undrafted. He had to claw and scratch and fight for the exact same contract that drafted players are simply handed with a smile and a photo op.
But here's the thing, he actually beat those monumental odds. He signed with the Giants as an undrafted free agent. He made it into the building. But I want you to closely follow this timeline because it is absolutely chillingly ruthless. Wednesday, May 13th. He is inside the practice facility. It is a totally mundane, controlled team workout. There are no heavy pads. There are no opposing wide receivers actively trying to block him or throw him off his route. It's just simple, fundamental drills on a quiet spring morning. And then, out of nowhere, his Achilles tendon snaps. The calf muscle literally rolls up the back of his leg. Now, for a cornerback, an Achilles tear is arguably the absolute most devastating injury in the sport. It completely destroys the precise biomechanical explosiveness required to backpedal and cover elite athletes. But you know what? The true cruelty of this story isn't just the physical tear of the tendon. It's the immediate, cold, operational efficiency of the organization's reaction, hours later. Not days, not weeks, literally hours later, the Giants completely erased his name from the depth chart. They cleared out his locker and immediately gave his roster spot to veteran outside linebacker Khalid Kareem. Thaddeus Dixon went from signing his absolute dream contract to suffering a catastrophic, career-altering injury to being completely, utterly unemployed, all in the span of just a few days. $282,500. That was Thaddeus Dixon's guaranteed money when he signed his undrafted deal. Now, to almost anyone watching this explainer, $250,000 sounds like a massive, totally life-altering windfall, right? But let's break down the dark, sobering reality of this specific number. For an undrafted player who doesn't have a massive, multi-million-dollar signing bonus to fall back on, this money was supposed to be the foundational bedrock to build his adult life upon. Now, let's do the math together. Deduct taxes, deduct the standard 3% agent fee. What is actually left over is now entirely 100% earmarked for basic survival. It will strictly fund his devastating medical recovery now that he is officially outside the team's protective, fully funded bubble. We're talking months of specialized, out-of-pocket physical therapy, potential secondary surgeries. The stark, terrifying truth of the matter is that the restaurant bills and the rent checks hit completely differently when your paycheck has a hard, definitive expiration date, when you have absolutely zero opportunity to fight for a roster spot or earn any of those lucrative
lucrative performance bonuses, the money dries up fast. This $282,500 is not a windfall at all. It is, for all intents and purposes, a medical settlement for a shattered body at the age of just 23.
And all of this brings us to a deep, systemic, league-wide issue. I call it the UDFA paradox. You see, NFL teams meticulously scour the college ranks looking for players exactly like Dixon. They want athletes who are incredibly talented, but who are carrying a medical flag that conveniently drops their acquisition price to literally 0 draft picks. They bring them into the building as low-cost depth bets. They are discount assets. I mean, think of it like treating players as high-performance rental cars, but with 0 liability insurance. The franchise brings them in, and then they rush them into full-speed organized team activities almost immediately after signing the paperwork. They run them at the absolute red line long before their bodies have adjusted to the crushing, overwhelming demands of the professional workload. It is a severely overloaded, highly stressful system. And when the player's body inevitably breaks under that sudden, massive acceleration of physical stress, what happens? The team just walks away. They absorb the negligible financial loss and move on. They cycle through dozens of these disposable bodies every single spring. The franchise profits immensely from finding that rare, diamond-in-the-rough discount player. But the player? The player absorbs 100% of the physical, emotional, and financial devastation when the engine blows.
So let's bring it back to that locker room. The comeback luxury between these two guys is perfectly, painfully asymmetrical. Cam Scotabo is gifted the grace of time. He gets to rehab inside a state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar facility, slowly and safely learn to trust his ankle again, and circle a very specific, hopeful date in late July for training camp. He gets to keep his eyes firmly fixed on a Sunday night football debut in front of millions of screaming fans. Thaddeus Dixon? His window didn't just casually close, it was dead-bolted shut. Think about his timeline now. By the time he successfully rehabs a torn Achilles deep into the year 2026, he is going to be a full year older. He will be carrying the permanent, glaring stigma of a catastrophic lower body injury on his resume. And honestly, worst of all, he will have to compete all over again against a brand new crop of younger, cheaper, and fundamentally healthier, undrafted rookies fresh out of college. It's devastating. The brutal system that gave him a mere handful of days as a New York Giant before tossing him aside, well, it will just keep producing identical, heartbreaking stories next May, and the May after that.
When you finally strip away all the pads, the team pride, and the Sunday pageantry that we all love, the actual business model is laid completely bare for us to see. It's the asymmetric economics of the NFL. I mean, let's look at the facts. When an undrafted player literally breaks in half on the practice field, what is the actual consequence for the billion-dollar franchise? The financial cost of $282,500 against a massive $255.4 million salary cap is a microscopic 0.11%. It is literally a rounding error in the accounting department. And the roster impact? The general manager just makes a single phone call and signs a veteran like Khalid Kareem straight from the street free agency pool before the sun even goes down. For the team, it is a perfectly coldly managed risk transfer. But for the player? The financial cost is the complete and total destruction of their livelihood and all future earning potential. The roster impact is a lost season or, much more likely, a permanently ended career before it ever even truly began. And the rehabilitation? It isn't a carefully managed risk in a corporate spreadsheet. It is grueling, terrifying isolation in some random private gym, desperately trying to rebuild shattered athleticism all alone. The franchise loses absolutely nothing. The player loses everything.
And that reality leaves us with a critical, incredibly lingering question. It's a question the league office would probably much rather ignore as they busy themselves preparing for the upcoming season. Should the NFL completely rethink its offseason structure? I mean, should there be a mandatory, strictly enforced physical acclimation period before pushing these highly vulnerable, undrafted rookies into full-speed, high-stakes workouts? Think about it. Or is a shattered Achilles on a quiet Wednesday morning in May simply the blood-soaked cost of admission? Is this just the unavoidable, agonizing price of chasing a 53-man roster spot in the most ruthless, highly competitive sports league on the face of the earth? It's a tough question, but it's one we absolutely have to ask.
Because at the end of the day, the machine keeps turning. The turf gets cleaned, the locker gets a new nameplate, and another draft class is going to face these exact same terrifying odds next spring. Look, if you want to keep peeling back the layers and truly understanding the real, unfiltered business behind the game, you need to subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. And please support the channel directly by becoming a channel member. Seriously, it is the only way we can continue to produce these deep-dive, uncompromising explainers for you. Make sure to hit the like button on this explainer so this vital information reaches more fans across the platform. And I want you to drop your honest take in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Is the NFL's offseason system fundamentally broken, or is this simply the cold hard price of admission to the ultimate gladiator sport? Let me know your thoughts. Until next time, keep your eyes on the details.